Every motorcycle has a story, but not every story ends with a bang. Some bikes roar onto the scene, capture headlines, and build loyal followings, only to vanish quietly from the showroom floor a few years later. Whether due to poor sales, changing regulations, or simply being ahead of their time, these motorcycles disappeared without fanfare. What's left behind are memories for the few who owned them, and curiosity for those who wonder why they vanished. In this countdown, we're looking at 10 motorcycles that were quietly discontinued. Some were bold experiments that never found their audience, others fell victim to shifting trends, and a few just couldn't compete in a crowded market. Each one carried potential, but in the end, their run came to a quiet stop. Let's dive in and uncover the stories behind the motorcycles that didn't get a proper farewell. Number 10. Yamaha FJR 1300. For years, the Yamaha FJR 1300 stood tall as one of the most respected sport touring motorcycles on the road. First launched in 2001, it combined long-distance comfort with genuine performance, giving riders the best of both worlds. With a smooth inline-4 engine, adjustable windscreen, and generous luggage options, it quickly earned a reputation as the gentleman's express. Yet despite all its strengths, Yamaha quietly discontinued the model in 2022, leaving many riders scratching their heads. The reasons weren't about flaws in the bike itself. The FJR 1300 was dependable, fast, and comfortable. Instead, it was more about timing and trends. Over the past decade, riders in the US shifted away from sport touring machines and toward adventure bikes. Models like the BMW GS or Yamaha's own Super Tenere offered similar long-haul comfort, but with the added appeal of off-road capability. The FJR suddenly seemed old-fashioned in a market obsessed with versatility. Regulations also played a role. Tightening emissions standards in Europe and North America made it harder for Yamaha to keep the FJR's big four-cylinder engine compliant without significant redesign. With sales already slowing, the investment didn't make sense. Quietly, Yamaha let the bike fade from its lineup, leaving fans disappointed but not entirely surprised. For riders who owned one, the FJR 1300 was a bike you could count on. It ate up highways with ease, delivered rock-solid stability, and had the durability Yamaha is famous for. Owners appreciated its refinement, and the way it made 500-mile days feel effortless. The discontinuation didn't change its reputation, but it did mark the end of an era. What makes the story bittersweet is that the FJR wasn't discontinued because it failed. It was discontinued because the world around it changed. Adventure bikes, crossovers, and even high-end cruisers pushed sport tourers out of the spotlight. The Yamaha FJR 1300 simply became a casualty of shifting tastes and tighter regulations. Today, the FJR lives on as a sought-after used bike. Riders who appreciate its balance of performance and comfort still swear by it, and many believe it represents the peak of the sport touring category. But for those who hope to see a next-generation FJR, the silence from Yamaha was the final word. A once-beloved touring icon, quietly discontinued without the farewell it truly deserved. Number 9. Honda ST1300 Pan-European. For many years, the Honda ST1300, also known as the Pan-European, was considered one of the finest sport touring motorcycles available. Introduced in 2002 as the successor to the popular ST1100, it carried Honda's reputation for reliability, refinement, and comfort. With its 1,261 cubic centimeter V4 engine, smooth power delivery, and plush ergonomics, the ST-1300 became a favorite among long-distance riders and even police departments worldwide. Yet despite its strengths, Honda quietly phased it out around 2012, leaving many wondering why a proven touring workhorse didn't get a proper send-off. The answer lies in shifting trends and growing competition. When the ST-1300 was launched, sport tourers were a hot category. Riders loved the balance of speed and comfort, making these machines the ultimate long-haul companions. But by the late 2000s, adventure bikes started stealing the spotlight. Models like BMW's R1200 GS and Yamaha's Super Tenere offered similar touring ability but added the versatility of off-road travel. For many buyers, the ST-1300 suddenly felt dated, a luxury sedan in a world rushing toward SUVs. Safety concerns also cast a shadow on the bike's legacy. There were reports in the mid-2000s of high-speed weave, where the bike became unstable at triple-digit speeds with certain loads or setups. While Honda addressed the issue and insisted the bike was safe under proper conditions, the reputation stuck. For some riders, especially those comparing options in the same class, this was enough to nudge them toward competitors. Maintenance costs were another factor. While the ST-1300 was built to last, its V4 engine and shaft drive required more involved service than simpler two-cylinder setups from rivals. Combine that with Honda's premium pricing, and the bike lost its appeal to cost-conscious buyers. The quiet discontinuation of the ST-1300 didn't spark outrage, but it left a gap for those who appreciated Honda's unique approach to sport touring. Some hoped for an updated ST model to rival Yamaha's FJR or Kawasaki's Concours 14, but Honda shifted its focus instead to models like the Goldwing and adventure-oriented Africa Twin. Today, the ST-1300 still enjoys respect in the used market. It's known for bulletproof reliability, a smooth ride, and comfort that can carry you across states without complaint. But its disappearance reflects the changing priorities of riders and manufacturers alike. In the end, the ST-1300 wasn't discontinued because it failed. It was discontinued because the world around it moved on. Number 8. Kawasaki W800. The Kawasaki W800 was meant to be a modern classic. A retro-styled machine with simple charm and old-school character. First introduced in 2011, it carried forward the lineage of Kawasaki's W series that dated back to the 1960s, with styling cues borrowed from the legendary British twins. With its air-cooled 773 cubic centimeter parallel twin, upright seating, and minimalistic design, the W800 appealed to riders who wanted something timeless in a world of increasingly complex motorcycles. And yet, despite its appeal, Kawasaki quietly pulled it from the US market after just a few short years. One of the main reasons was emissions. The W800's air-cooled engine struggled to meet tightening Euro 4 regulations. Unlike liquid-cooled engines, which could adapt with advanced fuel injection and catalytic converters, the old-school design left little room for improvement without fundamentally changing its character. Rather than invest heavily to modernize it, Kawasaki let the W800 fade quietly from showrooms in 2016. Sales numbers were another factor. While riders who bought it loved the bike's simplicity and charm, it wasn't a mass-market success. Many buyers in the retro segment gravitated instead toward Triumph's Bonneville line or Royal Enfield's more affordable offerings. The W800 was priced higher than the Enfield, yet lacked the broader support and heritage that Triumph offered. It ended up caught in the middle, appealing to a niche audience, but never quite finding a large enough following. Performance also left some riders disappointed. While the 773 cubic centimeter engine was smooth and predictable, it lacked the punch of rivals. The W800 was better suited for relaxed cruising than spirited riding, which limited its appeal. For younger buyers seeking retro looks with modern performance, it didn't quite deliver. And for older riders wanting reliability and comfort, it sometimes felt too basic. Despite its discontinuation, the W800 developed something of a cult following. Owners praised its attention to detail, from the polished engine fins to the wire-spoked wheels. It was a bike that reminded people of a simpler era, easy to ride, easy to maintain, and undeniably stylish. Kawasaki even briefly reintroduced it in 2019 with updates to meet emissions, but again, it never truly caught on in the US. Today, the W800 is remembered as a bike that deserved more recognition than it got. For those lucky enough to own one, it's a treasured piece of Kawasaki history. But for the broader market, it came and went with little fanfare, quietly discontinued, leaving retro enthusiasts with one less option. Number 7. Suzuki GSX-1 250FA. When Suzuki introduced the GSX-1 250FA in 2010, it was meant to carry the torch of the much-loved Bandit series while appealing to riders who wanted a fully fared, versatile all-rounder. On paper, it made perfect sense. A 1,255 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, plenty of torque, comfortable ergonomics, and a price tag that undercut many competitors in the sport touring category. It promised to be a do-it-all motorcycle, the kind you could commute on during the week and take cross-country on the weekend. Yet within just a few short years, Suzuki quietly let it vanish from their lineup. One of the key reasons was identity. The GSX-1 250FA was a solid motorcycle, but it struggled to stand out. To many riders, it felt like a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. It wasn't as refined as Yamaha's FJR1300, as sporty as a true sport bike, or as comfortable as dedicated touring machines. Buyers looking for specialization often chose alternatives, leaving the Suzuki in an awkward middle ground. Another problem was timing. By the early 2000s, the motorcycle market was rapidly shifting toward adventure bikes. Riders wanted upright ergonomics, long travel suspension, and the promise of both on- and off-road capability. Compared to flashy ADV machines like BMW's GS line, the GSX 1250FA looked outdated, essentially a fared Bandit, at a time when the world wanted something different. Emissions and regulations also played a role. Updating the aging air/oil-cooled inline-4 to meet tightening Euro standards required significant investment. With sales already lagging, Suzuki chose to quietly discontinue the model rather than pour resources into a bike with uncertain demand. Despite these challenges, owners who bought the GSX 1250FA often loved it. The engine was strong, delivering broad, usable torque that made it effortless to ride at any speed. The riding position was comfortable enough for long trips, and the bike had a reputation for durability. For many, it was the perfect sleeper motorcycle. capable of more than its modest reputation suggested. But in the eyes of the market, it simply wasn't enough. Overshadowed by rivals and forgotten in the rush toward newer trends, the GSX 1250FA slipped away without the fanfare it might have deserved. Today, it's remembered fondly by those who knew it, but it never achieved the recognition of Suzuki's more famous models. A quiet discontinuation for a bike that deserved a louder legacy. Number 6. Victory Vision. When Polaris launched the Victory Vision in 2008, it was meant to be a bold statement. An American-made touring motorcycle that could stand toe-to-toe with Harley-Davidson and Honda's Goldwing. And bold it was, with futuristic, almost spaceship-like styling, a massive 1,731 cubic centimeters V-twin engine, and all the creature comforts touring riders could want. The Vision was designed to turn heads and carve out a new niche in the market. But instead of becoming a modern classic, it ended up as one of the most polarizing bikes of its time, eventually discontinued along with the entire Victory brand in 2017. The first problem was its styling. The Vision looked like nothing else on the road, which was both a blessing and a curse. Some riders admired its daring, futuristic lines, while others thought it looked awkward, bulky, or downright unattractive. Motorcycles are as much about identity as performance, and many riders simply couldn't see themselves astride such a radical design. Performance-wise, the Vision had strengths. Its Freedom 106 V-twin delivered plenty of torque, and the bike offered good comfort for long-haul rides. But at nearly 900 pounds, it was an absolute heavyweight. Low-speed maneuvering was intimidating, parking lot drops were common, and not everyone wanted to wrestle with such a massive machine. It did fine on the highway, but in town, it often felt overwhelming. Then there was the bigger issue: brand recognition. Victory was always a niche player compared to Harley-Davidson's dominance in the US. Polaris tried to position the Vision as a premium alternative, but without the deep heritage and dealer network Harley enjoyed, it struggled to gain traction. Riders were hesitant to invest in a brand they weren't sure would be around long-term, a fear that turned out to be justified when Polaris shut down Victory altogether in 2017 to focus on Indian motorcycles. For those who did buy one, the Vision could be a rewarding ride, smooth on the open road, packed with features, and truly unique. But resale values plummeted after the brand's closure, leaving many owners with bikes that were difficult to move on. Today, the Vision is remembered as an ambitious experiment that pushed boundaries but never found its footing. It was discontinued not just because of its flaws, but because the entire brand disappeared. A futuristic dream that quietly faded into history. Number 5. BMW K1300S. When BMW introduced the K1300S in 2009, it was billed as the ultimate sport touring machine. Sleek design, cutting-edge technology, and a blisteringly powerful 1,293 cubic centimeters inline-4 engine delivering nearly 175 horsepower. It was meant to be the perfect blend of speed, comfort, and German engineering excellence. For riders who wanted a bike that could devour highways one moment and carve mountain roads the next, the K1300S seemed like the answer. And yet, despite its brilliance on paper and on the road, BMW quietly discontinued it in 2016. The first issue wasn't performance. the K1300S was fast, stable, and thrilling to ride. Instead, it was about competition and timing. By the mid-2000s, the sport touring segment was shrinking as riders gravitated toward adventure bikes. Machines like BMW's own R1200GS outsold the K-Series by a wide margin, leaving the K1300S with a dwindling audience. Even BMW admitted that the demand simply wasn't there. Another challenge was complexity. The K1300S featured advanced electronics for its time: electronic suspension adjustment, quick shifters, and traction control. While impressive, these systems added cost and potential maintenance headaches. Owners sometimes found themselves dealing with expensive repairs that soured the ownership experience. Combined with BMW's already premium pricing, the bike became an expensive gamble. Ergonomics were also divisive. While sportier than traditional tourers, the K1300S's riding position was still aggressive compared to long-haul machines like the FJR1300 or Honda ST1300. Riders who wanted true comfort leaned toward those alternatives, while those seeking performance often went with pure sport bikes. The K1300S sat awkwardly in between, excelling at many things but not dominating in any single category. Emissions standards added the final nail in the coffin. Updating the aging inline-4 to meet Euro 4 regulations would have required costly development. With sales already lagging, BMW chose instead to phase out the bike entirely. Despite its discontinuation, the K1300S retains a loyal fanbase. Owners praise its smooth engine, stable handling, and ability to cover serious miles at high speeds with ease. On the used market, it's still a respected machine. A reminder of a time when BMW was unafraid to push the limits of speed and technology in the touring category. The K1300S wasn't a failure by any means, but it became another victim of changing tastes and stricter regulations. A brilliant machine, quietly discontinued, leaving enthusiasts nostalgic for what many consider one of BMW's best sport tourers. Number 4. Honda NM4 Vultus. When Honda unveiled the NM4 Vultus in 2014, it looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. With its futuristic styling, low-slung profile, and sharp angles, it was often compared to the Batmobile on two wheels. Honda hoped it would attract a younger, style-driven crowd and show that motorcycles could be bold and unconventional. But despite all the buzz around its looks, the NM4 Vultus was quietly discontinued just a few years later, leaving behind more questions than fans. The biggest issue was its identity. The NM4 was powered by a 745 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine and featured Honda's dual-clutch transmission, DCT, essentially giving it a twist-and-go feel more like a scooter than a traditional motorcycle. While that made it easy to ride, it also stripped away the engagement many riders crave. Motorcycle enthusiasts felt it lacked soul, while scooter buyers thought it was too big, too heavy, and far too expensive. Then there was the practicality problem. Despite being marketed as a futuristic cruiser, the NM4 didn't offer much comfort for long-distance travel. Its low seating position and unusual ergonomics limited rider comfort, while storage space was minimal. For a bike priced significantly higher than many proven alternatives, this was a major drawback. Sales never took off. In the US, where the cruiser market is dominated by Harley-Davidson and classic styling, the NM4 looked too radical. Riders who wanted futuristic design often opted for sport bikes, while those who wanted practical commuting went with smaller scooters or standard bikes. The Voltus simply didn't have a clear audience. To Honda's credit, the NM4 was built well and delivered the reliability you'd expect. Some owners loved its uniqueness and enjoyed the attention it drew at bike meets. But in the broader market, it was seen as a novelty. Interesting to look at, less appealing to own. By the time emissions regulations and poor sales made it unsustainable, Honda let the NM4 slip quietly out of production. Today, it's remembered as one of the most unusual bikes of its era, a bold experiment that didn't fit anywhere. For collectors, it might one day become a quirky conversation piece, but for most riders, it was a strange detour in Honda's otherwise practical lineup. Number 3. Buell 1125R. The Buell 1125R was supposed to be Eric Buell's masterpiece, a true American sport bike capable of competing with the best from Japan and Europe. Released in 2008, it was the first Buell to break away from Harley-Davidson's air-cooled engines, instead using a liquid-cooled 1,125 cubic centimeter V-twin developed with Rotax. On paper, this was the bike that could finally put Buell on the global map. Unfortunately, it ended up being a short-lived and quietly discontinued experiment, remembered more for its failures than its promise. The first problem was refinement. While the Rotax engine delivered strong power, nearly 146 horsepower, it lacked the polish and smoothness of Japanese fours or Ducati twins. Riders complained about clunky fueling, abrupt throttle response, and excessive heat management issues that made stop-and-go traffic unbearable. For a bike meant to rival the best, these flaws stood out sharply. The styling didn't help either. The 1125R had odd, bulbous bodywork with oversized radiator shrouds that split opinions instantly. Some thought it looked aggressive, while many more thought it looked ungainly and awkward. A sport bike's aesthetics mattered just as much as performance, and the 1125R simply didn't capture hearts. Then there was the bigger problem: reliability. Early production models were plagued with issues ranging from electrical faults to mechanical failures. While Buell worked hard to improve the bike, the damage was already done. Riders who wanted a dependable sport machine looked elsewhere, unwilling to gamble on a brand with shaky dealer support. Compounding all of this was timing. The global financial crisis hit just as the 1125R was gaining traction. Harley-Davidson, which owned Buell at the time, decided to cut its losses and shut the brand down entirely in 2009. That decision sealed the fate of the 1125R. Instead of evolving into a refined second-generation model, it disappeared almost overnight. For the small group of owners who stuck with it, the 1125R offered unique handling thanks to Buell's innovative chassis design, underslung exhaust, and fuel-in-frame setup. But for the majority of riders, it became a cautionary tale. Buying one meant living with quirks, limited parts availability, and uncertain resale value. Today, the Buell 1125R is remembered as both ambitious and tragic. It represented Eric Buell's bold vision, but circumstances and shortcomings combined to sink it before it could truly shine. Quietly discontinued with the brand itself, it remains a reminder of how even great ideas can falter when timing, execution, and support don't align. Number 2. Harley-Davidson V-Rod. When Harley-Davidson launched the V-Rod in 2001, it was unlike anything the company had ever built. With sleek, modern styling, a liquid-cooled 1,131 cubic centimeter Revolution engine developed with Porsche, and a focus on performance, it was Harley's attempt to attract younger riders and compete with the likes of Yamaha's V-Max or Ducati's power cruisers. On paper, it seemed like a bold step forward. In reality, the V-Rod became one of Harley's most polarizing machines, eventually discontinued in 2017 with little fanfare. The V-Rod's biggest problem was identity. Traditional Harley riders dismissed it immediately. It didn't have the classic air-cooled V-twin sound or low-end grunt that defined the brand. Instead, it revved higher and felt more like a sport bike engine stuffed into a cruiser chassis. For die-hard Harley fans, it simply wasn't authentic. Meanwhile, the younger, performance-driven riders Harley hoped to attract often chose Japanese or European bikes that were lighter, faster, and cheaper. Ergonomics were another sore point. The stretched-out riding position put pressure on the lower back and wrists, making long rides uncomfortable. The low fuel capacity and poor range didn't help either, turning road trips into frequent gas stop headaches. For a bike that looked like a highway burner, it often left riders sore and frustrated. The V-Rod was also expensive to own. Maintenance costs were high. Aftermarket support was limited compared to other Harley models, and insurance premiums for its performance-oriented design weren't cheap. Combine that with weak resale values, especially compared to Harley's traditional cruisers and touring bikes, and many owners found themselves regretting the purchase. Over time, Harley trimmed the lineup and eventually phased out the V-Rod altogether. It never managed to carve out a stable identity within the brand. For some, it was too radical. For others, not radical enough. Today, the V-Rod enjoys a small cult following, with custom builders especially drawn to its unique look and power plant. But for the broader Harley community, it's remembered as an experiment that didn't quite work. A motorcycle quietly discontinued after 16 years, leaving behind as many regrets as admirers. Number 1. Honda DN01. When Honda introduced the DN01 in 2008, it was marketed as the motorcycle of the future. With sleek, futuristic styling, a fully automatic transmission, and the reliability of Honda engineering, it seemed poised to revolutionize the way people thought about two wheels. But instead of becoming a breakthrough, it became one of Honda's most regretted missteps. Discontinued after just a few short years with little fanfare. The DN01's first challenge was its identity crisis. Honda pitched it as part cruiser, part scooter, part sport bike. But it didn't truly excel in any category. At nearly 600 pounds, it was too heavy and sluggish to be sporty. It lacked the storage, practicality, and affordability of a scooter. And as a cruiser, it didn't deliver the comfort or character riders expected. Buyers didn't know what to make of it, and as a result, few ever reached for their wallets. Performance was another disappointment. The 680 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, paired with Honda's human-friendly transmission, a continuously variable automatic, promised smooth and easy riding, but in practice, it felt dull and uninspired. Riders used to shifting gears missed the engagement, while newcomers often found the sluggish acceleration underwhelming. The bike seemed to sap the joy out of motorcycling instead of enhancing it. Price only made matters worse. With a sticker price of around $15,000, The DN01 cost as much as proven touring or sport models with far more capability. For many riders, it was impossible to justify spending that much on a bike that didn't quite fit anywhere. Then came the looks. While futuristic to some, many thought the styling was awkward or even cartoonish. Motorcycles are emotional purchases as much as practical ones, and the DN01 simply didn't capture the hearts of riders the way Honda hoped. By 2010, Honda quietly pulled the DN01 from showrooms. It never found its audience, and its short production run left it as more of a curiosity than a milestone. Today, it's remembered as a bold experiment that missed the mark, a bike that tried to be everything at once and ended up being quietly forgotten. For riders who gambled on it, the DN01 became a regretful chapter in their riding history. For Honda, it was a reminder that even a company known for practicality and innovation can occasionally take a swing and miss. Some motorcycles leave with a roar, while others fade away in silence. These 10 machines, once filled with promise, quietly disappeared from showrooms. Whether victims of poor sales, shifting trends, or bold experiments gone wrong, they remind us that not every bike gets the farewell it deserves.